And now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome to the program. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mamode Akugha. In today's package, we bring you some of the most interesting developments trending in the Niger Delta, beginning with President Muhammadu Buhari's approval of the suspension of Professor Charles Quakers DOKUBO as coordinator of the Presidential Amnesty Programme. Professor DOKUBO's suspension came on the heels of petitions and allegations of corruption preferred against him by several groups in the region. Recall that calls for DOKUBO's sack had heightened following the February 14, 2019 looting of the Vocational Training Center of the Presidential Amnesty Programme in Kayama, Bayelsa State, where equipment and starter packs worth hundreds of millions of naira were carted away by yet-to-be-identified persons. And in Bayelsa State, these appear to be the best of times for the People's Democratic Party (PDP), whose supporters and loyalists have continued to hail the recent dismissal of applications filed by the All Progressives Congress (APC) and its governorship candidate, Mr. David Lyon, seeking a review of its February 13, 2020 judgment. The Apex Court had imposed a fine of 30 million naira on counsels for the applicants, Afe Babalola and Wole Olanikpekun, both senior advocates of Nigeria, on grounds that applications filed on behalf of their clients, the APC and David Lyon, amounted to an abuse of court process. In his reaction, candidate of the APC in the November 16, 2019 election, Mr. David Lyon, has taken the judgment in good faith, while urging Bayelsans to remain peaceful and law-abiding. Former Governor Henry SERIAKE-DICKSON has since hailed the Supreme Court judgment on the Bayelsa governorship dispute, which he says has vindicated him. In today's package, we take a flashback at Honorable Dickson's days in office and the prospects of his political career. And finally, in today's package, is a special feature on the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, which under the watch of Senator Godswill Akpabio is making giant strides to speed up the process of developing the region. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be right back after this time out. Don't go away.
Introducing the new face of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. We are charting the direction for a maritime and regulating the industry for a better, bigger, and more economically stable Nigeria. Evolved to serve you better. We are NIMASA. New face, rejuvenated service. NIMASA, changing the tides in your favor.
Welcome back. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. Immediate past governor of Bayelsa State, Honorable Henry SERIAKE-DICKSON, on the 14th of February 2020, handed over to his successor in office, Senator Doye Diri. This report, correspondent Tekena Miofuri takes a look at the political achievements and shortcomings of Honorable Dickson while he was in office as governor of Bayelsa State.
Former Governor Henry SERIAKE-DICKSON goes down in history as the first chief executive of Bayelsa State to have served out 8 years of 2 terms in office since the dawn of democratic governance in 1999. It is also on record that he is the first to have successfully handed over power to an anointed successor throughout the political history of Bayelsa State. It goes without saying that for as long as the status quo remains, the former governor of Bayelsa State will continue to loom large in the political affairs of the state. Until his rise to a position of political prominence, Honorable SERIAKE-DICKSON, a native of Tororua in Sagbama local government area, was a police officer who later took to law practice. After serving as Attorney General of Bayelsa State under the administration of the then Governor Goodluck Jonathan, Dickson was in April 2007 elected to represent Sagbama Ekirimo Federal Constituency in the National Assembly. He was in April 2011 re-elected into office but chose to join the Bayelsa governorship race. After securing a landslide victory in the November 2011 governorship election, in which he secured an estimated 90% of the people's votes, Honorable Dickson was on February 14, 2012, inaugurated as the fourth democratically elected governor of Bayelsa State. After the All Progressives Congress (APC) took over the reins of power at the center in 2015, Dickson's re-election was seriously threatened by what he constantly referred to as the federal might. After a keenly contested governorship election that year, he managed to snatch victory from the jaws of imminent defeat. For the OFRUMAPEPE of Bayelsa politics, it was an uncommon feat which he continued to celebrate throughout his tenancy of Creek Heaven. While in power, former Governor Dickson took certain actions, the outcome of which will definitely go down in history as his legacy. As governor, the articulate and outspoken politician had made conscious efforts to promote Ijaw unity, even as he fully embraced the Niger Delta struggle against perceived marginalization. In March 2019, Dickson set up the Bayelsa Environmental Audit Panel led by Dr. John Sentamu, the Archbishop of York. The panel, comprising professionals of international repute, was mandated to determine the extent of hydrocarbon pollutions attendant on decades of crude oil and gas production in Bayelsa State and recommend possible actions to be taken to get perpetrators of environmental injustice accountable for their action. By November 2019, when the Environmental Audit Panel submitted its preliminary report to former Governor Dickson, he did not fail to take sides with its people. As chairman of the South-South Governors Forum, former Governor Dickson was able to galvanize other governors in the region to fight for full payment of 13% derivation funds accruable to Nigeria's oil-producing states, in accordance with Section 162 of the 1999 Constitution as amended. In October 2018, the Supreme Court of Nigeria found merit in the Dickson-inspired legal action when it ordered the federal government to adjust its oil proceeds formula to comply with provisions of the Constitution. Judging from his antecedents, the outgone governor of Bayelsa State is the right candidate to take over the leadership mantle from a retiring Edwin Clark as the most respected voice in the Niger Delta. Like every mortal being, Dickson demonstrated some shortcomings in exercising political power while he called the shots as governor of Bayelsa State. Without conferring with other party chieftains to arrive at the choice of a popular governorship ticket for the People's Democratic Party in the November 16, 2019 governorship election, Dickson single-handedly picked Senators Doye Diri and Lawrence Erujakpo as governorship and deputy governorship candidates of the party. At the time, the calculation of the outgoing governor was to inherit the Bayelsa Central senatorial seat, which would have become vacant with Senator Erujakpo's election as deputy governor. The outcome of Dickson's unilateral decision had proved to be disastrous for the PDP in the November 16, 2019 governorship election. Candidate of the APC, Mr. David Lyon, became the choice of Bayelsans, including Dickson's estranged political allies. After securing a landslide victory at the polls, Mr. David Lyon was declared winner of the governorship contest by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. By a stroke of luck, however, Dickson became the major beneficiary of the February 13, 2020 judgment of the Supreme Court, which nullified David Lyon's election on grounds that his running mate, Biobaramakuma Degi Eremienyo, provided false information about his educational qualifications. But for the Supreme Court judgment, the PDP would have relinquished power to an opposition party for the first time in history under Dickson's governorship of Bayelsa State. While Dickson may have vacated Creek Heaven with a sense of accomplishment, having successfully installed a candidate of his choice, there are some lessons to be learnt from his actions and inactions as governor of Bayelsa State. Perhaps the greatest lesson is that Dickson probably needs to face the reality that true leaders must necessarily subsume their personal interests under the people's collective will. With the deep wells of resources dwelling inside of him, it is not in doubt that the man still has a lot to offer in political leadership. The truth, however, remains that the former governor of Bayelsa State needs to take a retrospective look at the political drama that played out in the twilight days of his administration. For him, this course of action has become expedient, as it will enable him use the benefit of hindsight as foresight in his future endeavors.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Leadership of the Jumbo Major House of Grand Bonny Kingdom in Rivers State has organized an economic empowerment program for its members. Correspondent Lovely Ofigo reports that the initiative was taken to provide succor for the largely unemployed members of the Jumbo Major House.
The empowerment program organized by the Caretaker Committee of Jumbo Major House, led by Chief Jasper Jumbo, was to bring succor to the long-suffering people. Jumbo Major House in Bonny Kingdom, which plays host to Nigeria's largest oil terminal, has been landlord to Shell since 1958 and is co-landlord to the Nigerian Liquefied Natural Gas (NLNG). Despite its immense contributions to Nigeria's economic survival, Jumbo Major House has suffered untold neglect and deprivation over the years.
Chief Professor Jasper Jumbo has today sown a seed of unity, a seed of mutuality. We are not only grateful to him, we are thanking God to have given him to us as a Joshua.
We now have something that can put food on our table, that can help us assist our husbands, pay our children's school fees with these things that he has given us.
Beneficiaries of the Economic Empowerment Scheme were given minibuses, tricycles and starter packs as well as cash donations.
Chief Prof Jasper JP Okojumbo has been giving so much scholarship to many people. He's been able to open our eyes for we to know our rights in Jumbo Major House of Grand Bonny.
And we want to say others that are also elders, they should emulate to do what he's doing so that it can benefit the youth, so that we can have our own positions tomorrow.
Caretaker Committee Chairman of Jumbo Major House, Chief Jasper Jumbo, said the initiative was to remind Shell Petroleum Development Company, SPDC, of its corporate social responsibility to Jumbo Major House.
I want to use this opportunity to teach Shell a small lesson. We're not their slaves, we're their landlords. Why don't we have youth employment quota with Shell? Shell is going to give war chest to nobodies, to impostors, to come and destabilize the constituted and mass-elected government. That is why I brought the masses. You can see them from the various communities. I brought both authentic elders recognized even by Bonny Chiefs Council. I brought the community leaders. I brought the elders from the various communities. I brought the youths, the women. I brought the youths, so that let them come and get part of what is their right. Let Shell know that we want our employment quota.
The Economic Empowerment Scheme was initiated to address the increasing spate of youth restiveness and other forms of social vices arising from widespread unemployment and poverty in Jumbo Major House.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Are you an entrepreneur, small business owner, startup, or would you like to showcase your product and services? You are specially invited to participate at the Niger Delta Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Summit and Exhibition 2020. Feed stimulating MSME's growth beyond oil with great lineup of speakers. Date 27th to 28th March 2020. Venue Obiwale International Conference Center, Port Harcourt, River State. Time 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily. Participant must be from 18 to 45 years of age. The best and most innovative business enterprises in the Niger Delta will receive a grant of 1 million naira and a saloon car. This is for only exhibitors at the summit. For participation, exhibition and sponsorship, kindly call 0909-374-7268 or email us info@ndyp.org.ng. Visit our website for more information on www.ndyp.org.ng. Niger Delta Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Summit and Exhibition 2020, igniting the next generation through expanding entrepreneurial culture in the Niger Delta region.
There seems to be light at the end of the tunnel for the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs under the leadership of Senator Godswill Akpabio. The following special feature captures some of the projects undertaken in less than 1 year of Senator Akpabio's appointment as Minister of Niger Delta Affairs.
On September 10, 2008, the late President Umar Yar'Adua officially announced the creation of a Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs. The ministry came into existence in response to growing agitations for improved living conditions in the largely backward oil-producing communities of the Niger Delta. Nevertheless, President Yar'Adua of blessed memory, in creating the Niger Delta Ministry, saw the need to placate a growing army of insurgents disrupting daily oil production in the Niger Delta in its determination to paralyze the Nigerian economy at the time. Considering that conflict was fueled by grievances over perceived neglect and underdevelopment of the Niger Delta, President Yar'Adua, in his wisdom, mandated the ministry to fulfill the following obligations: transforming the region with adequate infrastructure, addressing widespread environmental degradation, promoting the region's agricultural output, and creating jobs for the youth. It was a laudable project conceived to facilitate rapid growth and douse tension in the Niger Delta, and the presidential initiative had gone a long way to halt incessant attacks on oil installations in the Niger Delta. By August 2009, daily crude oil production output had risen to 1.7 million barrels per day, from an insignificant 1.2 million barrels recorded in the previous year. It, however, turned out to be what many described as piece of the graveyard, as the implementation of the Niger Delta Peace Deal through the instrumentality of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, the already existing Niger Delta Development Commission (NDDC) and the Presidential Amnesty Programme failed to address the conditions giving rise to conflict in the region. Although the structures set up by the federal government to foster peace and development in the Niger Delta had made efforts to rebuild the battered region, with few projects designed to upscale physical infrastructure and human capital development, all such efforts were, in the considered opinion of notable Niger Delta activists, an attempt at scratching the surface in the people's quest for social justice. In its performance appraisal of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, one of the leading newspapers this day had in May 2019 scored the ministry below average. In the report covering a period of 4 years between 2015 and 2019, this day had blamed the ministry's lackluster performance on administrative lethargy and short-sighted leadership. In the report, this day had attributed the ministry's shortcomings to non-completion of existing projects as well as the absence of innovative leadership to offer the beleaguered oil-producing communities a new lease of life. How to transform the Niger Delta was a daunting challenge bequeathed on Senator AKPABIO when on the 20th of August 2019 he was appointed Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. As an experienced navigator acquainted to the creeks of the Niger Delta, the immediate past governor of Akwa Ibom State had the winds and waves on his side in piloting the region out of turbulence. Soon after his appointment, AKPABIO saw the need to complete existing projects initiated and abandoned by previous administrations. One of such projects is the moribund housing scheme awarded across the 9 states of the Niger Delta, which AKPABIO and his team are currently making frantic efforts to resuscitate. In line with its mandate to promote human capacity development, the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs had established skills acquisition centers across the 9 Niger Delta states. Unfortunately, most of the skills acquisition centers were left to rot away until recently when AKPABIO and his team decided to bring them back to life. Recently, AKPABIO was at one of the skills acquisition centers in Cross River State where he observed some shortcomings in the conception of the center.
We are not just building a skills acquisition center. We are building a center that is capable of giving out certificates.
Yes, like diplomats.
And diplomats. Yes. It's almost like a mini polytechnic.
Yes, sir.
When you are building a mini institution for specialized training and you call it Skill Acquisition Center, I think the name is deceptive.
In his attempt to get the Niger Delta Ministry back on track, AKPABIO has decided to implement its core mandate, which includes the promotion of environmental protection. In addition to oil and gas, the Niger Delta is endowed with vast potentials in agriculture. In trying to unlock the many opportunities inherent in the agricultural sector of the economy, Senator AKPABIO is making efforts to boost agricultural output in the region. In January this year, he had visited Cross River State to seek collaborations with the government of Professor Ben Ayade in agricultural development with emphasis on rice production.
It's an initiative that we must extend to other parts of the Niger Delta. It's not a joke. If we can do this in very high quantity, I believe that we'll be able to provide food for our people.
After that historic visit, Senator AKPABIO had approached the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) for a partnership in agricultural development. The performing Minister of Niger Delta Affairs was able to secure the Apex Bank's commitment to go into a strategic alliance to facilitate agricultural output in Nigeria's oil-producing region.
We are very determined. We even found out that we have enough land for it to even commence the pilot program on rice production across the 9 states of the Niger Delta. We have enough land. And we have acres and acres and acres of land. I went inspecting, and it was after that I said we must have this meeting. And so we are assuring you, we work closely with our governors in the region, and then where you need land, we will have land. And we are very prepared to make sure that we provide what is needed.
We'll do everything possible to ensure that the joint partnership is a success.
AKPABIO's policy on agricultural development in the Niger Delta is indeed a laudable strategy to alleviate widespread poverty and insecurity, which are the negative manifestations of widespread hunger and unemployment in the Niger Delta region. By December 2019, during his first 100 days in office, the former Senate Minority Leader had empowered over 1,600 youths in the Niger Delta. Before his appointment in August last year, the Niger Delta Ministry had been assigned the role of supervising an ailing NDDC that had failed to meet its obligations to the backward oil-producing communities on account of endemic corruption in the system. And with no tangible results achieved with the experiment, President Buhari, in October 2019, ordered a forensic audit on NDDC to uncover details of the Commission's transactions from its inception in 2001. President Buhari, in his wisdom, directed Senator AKPABIO to oversee the audit process and reposition the NDDC to function in line with its establishing acts. It was an uphill task which Senator AKPABIO has successfully carried out in close consultation with Mr. President. And to the delight of all parties involved in the forensic audit process, groundwork for commencement of the all-important exercise has already been established.
The process has started by the verification exercise, and now we have done this tripartite meeting. The entire stakeholders have been brought together.
All the parties are quite impressed, and at the end of the day, everyone is satisfied that the course of action chosen by the ministry is indeed incredible.
For most Niger Deltans, it is no surprise that Senator AKPABIO has achieved several milestones in less than 1 year of his appointment as Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. While he held sway as Governor of Akwa Ibom State between 2007 and 2015, AKPABIO had restored the dignity of his people with many life-transforming projects and programs. Almost 5 years after he left office, AKPABIO's numerous projects crisscrossing Akwa Ibom State have stood the test of time. They include well-paved roads that have transformed the landscape of Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, which is today a destination of choice for tourists and investors. Also worthy of mention is the Godswill AKPABIO International Stadium, which is today the only FIFA-approved stadium in Nigeria. In furtherance of his uncommon transformation in Akwa Ibom State, the Anang-born politician had built the Ibom Specialist Hospital, fully equipped with state-of-the-art facilities to meet the medical needs of Akwa Ibomites and their neighbors in the Niger Delta. The facility was put in place to discourage medical tourism outside the shores of the country. It is common knowledge that an impactful administration is the desirable outcome of careful planning, organization and supervision in any system. In addition to the application of these strategies, Senator AKPABIO has deliberately encouraged teamwork in directing the affairs of the Niger Delta Ministry. So far, it has been a paradigm shift in public administration and remains the secret of AKPABIO's success story in less than 1 year of his assumption of office as Minister of Niger Delta Affairs. In spite of his towering achievements, Senator AKPABIO, a staunch advocate of good governance, is not resting on his oars. He has since articulated a roadmap to guide his team in its avowed commitment to produce in the shortest time possible fruitful results that resonate with the objectives for which the late President Yaradua established the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs in September 2008. Senator AKPABIO's strategy for the development of the Niger Delta is a gradual process that eventually culminates in the region's industrialization. To this end, he has decided to enthrone social justice for sustained peace and development to thrive in the Niger Delta. This is indeed the way to go in resolving conflict and restoring enduring peace in Nigeria's restive Niger Delta region.
Inside the Niger Delta.
And with that special feature on the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, we draw the curtain on the program. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be back same time, same station next week. Until then, you can follow us on our social media handles showing right now on your screen. Until next week, I am Mamode Akugha saying thank you so much for watching and bye for now.